Hello, welcome to Flory Models. I'm Flory. Big apology, sorry about last week. Tell you the truth, I had a large order that we were trying to get out on the Friday, and then Saturday morning, I know it's not very rock and roll, but I bent down to the tumble dryer to get some washing out and put my back out. So that sort of plagued my entire weekend's worth of building and everything, so I can't physically sit down with it. So anyway, we're all okay now, just about ready, and it's now I'm on holiday as of Friday, so it was a bit of a thing. So sort of amalgamation between the two to go through. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to show you a little bit on the F-16 that's behind me, and I'm going to give you a run through. I've been asked to do a run through on the F-14 and tell you what we're going to be doing about that build that's going to be coming up when I get back off of holiday. I was really hoping to sort of get this F-16 done. But unfortunately it hasn't actually worked out that way, but we're literally to this stage now, and in a few minutes I'll show you a little bit about the wiring and the lighting that we've been doing with this one. I have to say I am absolutely in love with this kit. I've been speaking to a few of the members about it and some friends and that, and they were saying about, oh, what's it like, is it like the Tamiya one and all the rest of it. 50 quid cheaper than the Tamiya one if you're going to be paying full price for this thing, and it is an absolute gem of a kit. Okay, I'm using a few aftermarket extras, but even the kit parts as well, absolutely fantastic. As you can see, really we're to this stage, which is just before priming. We're literally in a position where we can get this one primed up. If you haven't seen the little thing on this one, what we're actually doing is a full electrics job. I'm going to have this as a diorama as if it's landing and everything else. But I have to say I'm loving this build. But anyway, here's a little bit on wiring it up and what we're doing with the electrics and the lights. And there we go with the lights rigged up. So I know on camera they look a little bit circular-fied, but you see both multifunction displays at the front. We've got the ones at the back, we've got the lights in the middle, which they look a lot better to the naked eye. For some reason the camera picks them up a little bit odd, but hopefully you can see the various ones in there. And so there's a couple really can't really see on camera, but you got a lot better on the radar warning receivers as well, because they're lit up at the top. But there we go, that shows it with the cockpit installed. Now obviously we've cut the seat belts off. If I just unpull this, take those out. Okay, so there we go. Hopefully you can see we've got nav lights on just down the side, main, which will be the actual nose wheel light, that one. This is where we've got the cables that are coming out at the bottom, and then obviously they'll feed out. At the moment we've got one going over here to 9 volt, the other one is here which goes off to the mains. And then over here we've got this little guy flashing away, and then should be the one down the bottom there, down there, which is a little parachute light on the top, little flashing one as well. So between that, and then we've got, as you see, one down in here, we've got an LED, which that will go into the fibre optics and all done. Now for the moment, it's all wired up and running, which is amazing. Loads of trouble, I don't know, we're sort of trying to get the wiring. It's obviously all, pole has to be correct, so it's not just like wiring up normal lights, you have to make sure they're all right, and obviously making sure you feed through. So for honest, this one is now all wired in through here. Okay, so now it comes out at the bottom. So in at the moment we've got the fibre optic cable, which is this one that runs to the very tip one down there. Okay, and then obviously this one on the top for the flasher. Okay, then obviously those have all got to be wired through, so you just have to mentally work out where all the cabling and all the wiring is going to go. So we've got a bit of a mess around here at the front, and I've obviously got to tape them up properly now, so they're all, you know, no problem. But I've only done them with tape as I went round to make sure they are going to work when you switch them on. But anyway, they do seem to work, so I'm very happy with how that's turned out, and that is the electrical side all done now. So what we can actually do now is get the camera back on its stand where it belongs, and we can start putting it together. Okay, so there you go. It gives you a bit of a run through of how it works and how we're doing it and everything else like that. So if you are thinking about working with electrics and all the rest of it, you know, don't be frightened of it. It's one of those things you can poke in, and hell, if it doesn't work, just don't worry about it. You can move on and do it. It's going great. As I say, when we get back off of holiday, what I intend to do is get this thing primed up then, check the seams and everything else with it, and then literally we can get on with the paintwork and start pushing through the build. But obviously we've tied down a lot, doing a few little changes, made a few little changes to the intake to make it look a little bit better, added a little bit of plastic art just down in here, which members you can see. But anyway, members will be able to see the next two parts of the build, so obviously you're getting 2 weeks worth in one on this one, which gets you basically to this stage anyway. And then obviously when I get back, I say we'll crack on. The Seafire, the last 3 parts are going to be up there, so you're actually going to have 2.5 hours worth of video to watch on the builds as well, as you're getting the new shows on top of that as well. So I hope that sort of suffices me being off for the next 2 weeks anyway. And then obviously when we get back, we're going to get straight into this one and get this one finished off everything else. But I say it's been an absolutely enjoyable build, really working, and all the aftermarket parts, I have to say, touch wood, all work. The Aries wheel wells, you know, normally Aries, nightmare, actually drop in fit with no problem at all, and you know, a little bit of skimming off the nose wheel to get that one to fit, but actually very nice and goes together very well. So if you are thinking about doing one, they're about 90 quid, these kits, 80-90 pounds, but I tell you what, you get everything in there to make basically any type of 2-seat F-16 you can think of. So we're talking you know, the DJs, and then obviously we're talking the foreign ones as well, because the thing is, you do get the full parachute brake system with it, and all those lumps and bumps all do come with the kit, so it's absolutely fantastic. And you do get the big mouth and small mouth intakes on this, and the big and small tails on it as well, so absolutely fantastic for that. The other thing I've also been asked about is my lighting rig. Now I've got another one of these which is over there, which I don't tend to use that much, but I have been asked about it, so I've written down what it is because I never remember myself. It's actually made by Model Craft. So then what you can see you've got 2 bulbs in here. These are 15-watt daylight bulbs, shadow free, and what I really like about this one compared to other lights is there's no heat. These got no heat coming off of these. The bulbs are actually cool to the touch, so you don't have to worry about leaving it on your model down here, come back and find out you've melted it an hour and a half later, which I know has happened to a few people, and I know I've had some close calls with it as well, using the more conventional ones like you can see over here. I've just got a small one, literally just because I've got my spray booth over here, just down onto it. Trouble with these is these do kick off a little bit of heat, especially if you're using natural daylight bulbs, 60 watt, the old-fashioned bayonet or screw E-fit ones. They do produce a hell of a lot of heat, and when you're working under them, it can artificially dry your paintwork and everything else. But as I say, now the thing is, these aren't cheap. I will be very honest with you. It's 75 quid. Yes, that is 75 Great British pounds. Okay. It's not cheap, but that said, I've had this one, especially is on a lot more than the other one, is on pretty much, I would say, 8 to 10 hours every day. And so far, we're still on the original tubes in there and everything else like it, and it hasn't failed me at all. The only thing it did do used to vibrate, and I don't know why, but what it was actually one of the starter motors in here used to vibrate. I've got it doing it now actually, but by giving it a wiggle, but it took me ages to figure out why it's vibrating. But anyway, as I say, made by Minicraft. Model Craft, sorry, £75, and that will get you it. But really, as you can see, I used to use this light up here. Trouble with this one up here, which is your standard type of light, it gives you that yellow colour, and it's very artificial, and you can probably get away with it if you're, you know, just doing it for yourself. But obviously with me, with camera, especially with this camera here, it needs a natural light. But that is the only trouble, is because it is what you would call a clear light, it's like a blue effect, it does tend to give on camera sometimes a little bit of funny thing. It takes a while to lock in to get the colours correct, but what is beautiful about it, it is almost shadow free, so we don't really get any shadows unless it's something giant like this, and it covers a very wide area, where if you're using 2 lamps coming in, obviously you get shadows on the side and everything else. But also it's a very nice light to work with. I don't feel I get any eye strain from it and things like that. And obviously I'm sat here 8 hours a day doing this. You know, sometimes on the old one I used to get a little bit of headaches, a bit migrainey, and I swear it's because they've got a little vibrate. You know, the light is pulsing slightly on the old ones over there. So that's why we have this one, and I will get the other one fitted up over there. It's just like I've got to drill a hole in my bench to actually do it, because these come on a very nice clamp system which bolts on, and there again, it's not just a cheap rubbish clamp, it's a nice chunky proper clamp. This one on here isn't on springs that pull through, as you can probably see it's on proper ones coming up and across, and I've got that one down there, and then obviously it arcs right the way over, but it's got a very nice pull on it. It goes all the way over, or you can have it all the way back wherever you want it. So it is a nice light. I do like it, and I would recommend it. It's one of those things, a little bit like the compressor. The compressor is something like £270 these days. But for me, I've had it, 3 years now, and it's paid for itself tenfold, because we get no fumes. The dust cut down is amazing in here, and now I'm working on the same with the lights. For years I used to use cheap lights off, and they always used to break at the base. Even if they're a clamp one, they used to snap after a while, or they wouldn't stick, and I'd end up with rubber bands and tape holding it together. Wouldn't really have it. Bought one of these and never looked back. So if you are thinking about investing into a light, as I say, twin 15 watt bulbs in here, daylight, heat-free bulbs, and everything else. And it is £75, as I say, which I know a lot of people will cringe at the price of it, but it's the type of thing, if you're serious about the hobby and you're going to be spending the next 10 years doing it, then it's probably worth the investment. Anyway, a couple of things I want to talk about. First of all, Facebook. Yes, we are on Facebook as well, everybody. Because somebody the other day was saying about, various things and pictures and stuff like that, and that you can't see it unless you're a member on the site. That will change. I'm going to revamp the site when I come back towards Christmas. You're going to be seeing a lot of new things appearing on the site, mainly to streamline it and make it a little bit more user-friendly, because again, as it gets bigger, it gets cluttered, and every now and again I have a giant cull and a move around, and we tend to make it a little bit more easy to get to things. So I'll be doing it again with a lot more thumbnail click to go to places and things like that. But in the meantime, if you want to see pictures of completed models and perhaps high-res shots and things like that, I always update our Facebook page. Now the Facebook page is simple, just put in there either Pro Modeler, okay, or Flory Models, and you'll pop up with it straight away, and you can then like that one if you want, and you can be in there and see all the work. And there's obviously, I've got photo shots of like this one. I'll be getting updated on there, some went up this week, but I'll put up a lot more as we go through everything else like that. So you can follow us on Facebook, we are on that as well. The basic modelling DVDs are going absolutely great. I have had a couple of people say they won't play. Don't forget, because these are in 480p HD mode, they're actually now running through QuickTime. So if you've got things like iTunes on your computer and things like that, it loads straight through that, and then you can put it onto iPads and iPhones as well, and bits and pieces like that, as well as your standard computer. So if you are used to our old discs, you pop them in and they play through Windows Media Player and things like that. These ones play through iTunes or QuickTime. So just download a new QuickTime thing, they're all free off the net, and you'll be fine, and you can go along with it like that. But I have had a couple of people say, why hasn't it? The other thing also, when we're talking about the videos, I had a few people saying that some of the old ones are faulty because they're in really bad quality image. It's not. That was just the best we could do back then, okay? So we are talking about, they were done, I think some of the early ones were 2006, 2007. So obviously here we are, getting on really sort of 4 or 5 years later with them. We've changed. Obviously this camera here is in HD now, absolutely gorgeous, crystal clear, nice and sharp, and you can make them quite big on your screen and everything else. So what the old ones were, terrible analog things, and quite blurry, not very good, and especially the way I talk on them is almost cringeable when I look back at them now. So what we've actually done is remove those now from the actual site, so you can't buy those at a DVD. The ones you can do with the camera, the predecessor to this one, which aren't too bad, and then obviously what I intend to do, we spoke about before, is the run up to Christmas and certainly early part of next year, I will be redoing them all in HD, using all brand new techniques that I use now, versus the old ways I used to do them 5 years ago, because let's face it, we all learn as we go. Anyway, other thing as well we're going to talk about is the Telford. Now, Scale Model World, which is Europe's certainly largest model show, is happening on the, I haven't got it written down, but I do believe it's around 12th, 13th, 14th of November. Now this is in Telford. Last year it was great because we met up with a couple of modelers who were staying in the same hotel as us, and they were members on the site as well, and so it was quite nice in the evening, sat down having a chat with them. Now, a few people have asked where we're going to be this year and everything else. Well, we're at good old-fashioned Premier Inn, the purple place. We're at the central one, which is next to the railway station in Telford, so it's just over the road. It's a 5-minute drive. So we're going to be up there definitely on the Friday night and the Saturday night. Sunday night is a little bit iffy because some of us got work on the Monday, so we're going to be travelling back on the Sunday night. But certainly, if you want to join us, then please feel free. Full details, Melanie's poked it up onto the forum as well about it. But as I say, it will be definitely myself, Hans, and Marcus is coming, and then we do believe Jonas is coming over as well from Sweden, so it'd be great. So that's the team, will be there, and obviously we can have a chat over a pint because there's a nice pub next door and all the rest of it, and we can have a wind down after the show and everything else. But we are going to be at the show. We're at table 123, which is in the first hall or second hall. First one as you walk in on the left hand side. We're over there on an end pitch, but we'll have the usual banners up and everything else so you see it. But more details will follow for that as we get closer to it. You've now got, depending which day I put this up, if I put this up tomorrow, then you've got 2 days left to finish your World War II multi-engine build. Great entries in these, and honestly, I've done half a news show which isn't going to be on this one because I need to edit everybody's names in and everything else like that, but we have had some great entries into this one, and when I get back, certainly obviously I'll do the end video and everything else. We've got the medals all sorted for this one. He's looking around for a medal. Let me grab a medal. Ugh. Which will look something like this. Everybody will get a medal who takes part, and you will also get some goodies from the Pro Modelers range as well, and I'm hoping to get the stickers sorted out and everything else as soon as we get back as well. So that will be up. So you want to get your entries all finished just in time. I think it ends actually Saturday for that one, so make sure you get those in. And then the next one we're starting is obviously we're going to be doing one on transport, airliner, whatever you're going to call it, group build. Okay, now Hans and Billy are doing this one in the forum, so you can talk to them about any sort of, you know, if you're not sure you can enter or anything else like that. We spoke about it a few weeks ago anyway, but basically that's going to kick off another 6-month build, and that's going to take us right the way through to past Christmas and everything else like that. So anyway, without further ado, here's a quick look at that gorgeous F-14. Okay, now the other day, right, I had somebody ask me, it was a wife of a modeller who said, what do you get a modeller who's got everything? Okay, and I actually said to him, get him a bigger kit, just work him up through the scales, and you can't get much more bigger than this. This is Trumpeter's, sort of the last carnation that they've done so far of the F-14D. Now they've done the B and the A version as well. Now this, as you can see, is an absolute monster of a kit. So even getting into this is quite tricky because you have got flaps and tabs everywhere. So you've got one down there, one down there, you've got one here, and then one down here, which opens it up, okay, which means then you can open up the sides. Okay, Crystal Maze anywhere? Okay, which then brings us to something like this. Get rid of my ugly mug and show you what you want to see. Okay, so in the box here, we actually have, obviously, we've got your instructions, full colour loadouts for this particular one. So you can imagine with this one, we've got the Bounty Hunters VF2, which is obviously the box art, and as well as we've got Felix back here, okay, from the Tomcatters as well, and right the way through, and we've got one down the back here as well for the Lions as well. So you've got 3 options for this particular kit, as we can actually see, which is quite nice. So you've got VF31 and who is that? VF213. We've obviously got a correction, which is quite nice that they've actually spotted it. This is for the decals because obviously they've printed the negative of both of those, so they've redone another one. But as you can imagine, you get everything in here for all the weapons and all the bits and pieces that go with it. Then down in the kit itself, you've got all the instructions. Now going through these, obviously you can see we've got the full engine you can work on, quite a nice cockpit, radar that opens up, you've got your gear, refueling, air-to-air refueling probe on the nose and everything else like that, which is all quite a nice touch. A full gun, obviously, if you want to have a gun open and everything else. Then you've got your standard type of thing, fitting the engine, so all that lovely work you did on the engines you won't be able to see anyway, unless you leave one out. Okay, and going right the way through the build. Now, as we've all done these before, most of us have built an F-14 before, they are extremely complicated kits usually to go together. That's just the nature because of this curved system for the injection moulding likes to be moulded 90 degrees. So when it's on a curve, it's extremely hard to get it to do it. So that hence why you get them usually in quite odd shapes and bits and pieces. Now the first thing you're going to greet you is this here. Now anyone who's done their Hornets will know it's a similar type of thing. So when you get one of these out, as we can see, you get Same as all the other Tomcats ones, because obviously you can't mould the detail on the engines because they're being round. Okay, and we've got the one at the top as well. As you can see it, I would say we're pretty much in scale. Some of the riveting, I don't know, slightly overdone, but there again, to be honest, I've never done a full right up close look at a real F-14. Unfortunately, here in the UK, we haven't seemed to got any. Okay, but certainly there seems to be lots of riveting detail on it, but it all does look nice. It doesn't look like it's overdone, especially for its scale. So we have those. Okay, and then in here, going through the bags, we've got, I won't open these bags up on these, you've got your engines, again, very nicely detailed and everything else, a couple of ejector pin marks, but nothing you really sort of worry about. Engines quite nicely done. 2 sprues of that, because obviously it's following each other. Then you've got open access panels. Down here we've obviously got the gun that we're going to be, you know, obviously you could detail up, have open, as well as avionics bays as well that are opened up. Some are detailed already. And then obviously we're starting to get these curved areas, and for some reason it looks like it's a tiny little seam lines we've got going down the back here, which seem to be quite odd. It's almost like a raised panel line. But as I say, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Still working through, as I say, we've got the nozzles in here, you've got the tail planes, again, nothing really to get massively excited about. Obviously separate rudders on the back, which is a nice touch. This is one of the nice bits. These are the inflatable airbags that fit behind the wing fold. As the wings slide back, obviously these get squashed down, but there's an air, they sort of inflate, so they're on a pneumatic system, so you don't get any gaps behind the wings as they fold back. These are made in rubber. Now, the only trouble with rubber, like rubber wheels and all the rest of it, is what they're going to look like in 20 years' time is anybody's guess. Okay, but we're sort of hoping that they'll be okay and not fall apart and go brittle and horrible. Working similar down, we've got more missiles. Some of the smaller parts. Now these, the reason these are separate bagged, kit specific, obviously different tails, engine mounts and things like that at the back for the D versus the B and the A version, and certainly different lumps and bumps on the tails and the bits that you get on the doors and things like that, obviously different to the kit. Bag of sidewinders, had these before with other kits, very nicely done. Some sparrows as well, some M7s, okay. Wings, obviously you've got your slats and your flaps on the front and rear that are very nicely done. The only trouble with this kit is, if we just put that down there without it all falling off, as you can see we've got the ring system. Now I'm not a fan of this because I like to put the wings in afterwards if I at all can, and then that way once the wings are in, you know, you don't have to worry about, obviously, you know, with lumps hanging off of them and things, and they're a lot easier to paint. But obviously with this ring it's going to be expected to put them together, sandwich it with the wing system in. So I would probably cut it, okay, and then still give it as a slot fit. As I say, you don't have to do that, it's just the way I do it. Nice collection of Phoenix missiles. So very nice, we've got 6 missiles there. Here's another little nice touch. We've got obviously lantern targeting pods, radar, ECM jammer as well, and we've got the little, what do you call it? Can't think of its name now. It's the data sender, these little guys here, which are used for air combat manoeuvring. Fuel tanks for the bellies, and obviously we've got the correct pods and the actual missile rails, which have these little lumps on the front as well, and things which obviously make them correct. And obviously we've got weapons pylons as well for carrying freefall bombs. So if you did want to have it carrying bombs, by all means you can. Just move over to this side. So it's the only trouble with this kit, it's so big I can't even show it all around. Okay, running through this bag here, we've got, as you can imagine, all the little bits. Now, we've got all the bits in here for things like locks for the canopy frames, which is quite a nice touch. We've also got the various radar components, bits for the gun, certainly the instrument panel and everything else like that. Okay, we've got the racks there for the Phoenix missiles, obviously for the on the belly, or actually for using your freefall bombs. Cockpit tub, okay. To be honest, we're a little bit disappointed with this cockpit tub. It's not exactly, I can show you this here, it's not the best you would hope for on a kit, one of this expense. and secondly, you know, obviously if it's scale, you'd want a little bit better. As you can see here, we've got the circuit breakers. You know, nothing really you get excited about. I wouldn't say, oh wow, it's fantastically done, because it is. We've got the panel at the top here. It is a little bit plain, a little bit boring, unfortunately. So do you bite the bullet and probably spend another £30–40 and stick a resin cockpit in it, or do you leave it as it is? You know, personally, I think if you're going to be spending over £100 on the kit, you really shouldn't have to go around forking out a lot more for it, but I think it might probably be money well spent. On the other hand though, gear bays are very nicely detailed. We've got wiring looms in here, obviously hydraulic lines and everything else. The gear itself looks quite chunky, although it should be, but you can probably see in here we've got the wiring looms all running down the side here, so they can be very nicely detailed. Flaps and slats in a bag, you know, nothing really you get excited about, but again, all very nicely detailed. I can see no sign of any flash or anything you would actually get worried about at all on this one. It all looks extremely nice in the box. Is it sealed? No. In the box here is your box of goodies. So we have both the engine intakes, the belly of them. They're obviously moulded as a separate mould completely, so you can get the riveting detail on the side to look quite nicely. Very nicely protected as well, because obviously it's quite sharp points on there which usually get bent off and everything else. One piece nose cone, again, looks like it's moulded as a separate piece. That looks very nice, no problems with that. A little bit of photo etch. So on here we've got some mirrors, we've got, looks like sway braces for the weapons pylons, a couple of little bits of harness and everything else. There again, nothing you'd get massively excited about, but it will certainly liven up what could be a very dull cockpit. Now this here is something I saw when I first looked at this kit and did wonder about it. So it's nice to get it out of the bag and see if it's the bag, which it is. When you look at this through the bag, the clear part looks like it's cloudy. Get it out of the bag, it's crystal clear. Now there is a centre seam line running through this, but also remember there is little tapes that run right the way halfway up. They're supposed to be moulded in, these ones here aren't, so it's only this first, what, inch and a half of each one you're going to have to remove, but it is very nicely done. And looks like it's pretty much blemish free. When you look at it through the light, it looks like it's quite a nice fit. So we'll just put this back in. I learned a valuable lesson doing that because I've got a crack in my suffer one. Okay, ejector seats, separate bag. The reason they put them in here is obviously ejector seats are different on the D than they are the earlier models, hence why they're on a separate bag. Again, nothing you'd massively get excited about for its scale, but they would fit, especially if you're going to be putting crew in it. Little bits of glass, so we've got glass here for a tarps pod, although I didn't see it in the bags, although it might have one, but if not, you've got your standard type of things, all your glass parts on here for your nav lights, HUD, things like that. Second area, rubber wheels. Now if you're a fan of rubber wheels, obviously you probably love Trumpeter. If you're not, you probably hate them because all their big kits come with them. These ones just feel rock hard. I don't know, these would probably last, you know. I know some of the ones are pretty naff, especially the early stuff. It used to look like weight on wheels, they were that rubbish. But these ones are actually looking pretty good. Now I do know there are various companies out there you can buy some resin ones if you want to replace them anyway, but it gives you a sense of scale when you see them, they're like that. Okay, last bit in here is a couple of bits of metal, which are your inserts for the actual undercarriage. So you're going to build your plastic ones, wrap them around this, and this will give it its strength because they actually feels like they're made of steel. Extremely strong, they don't bend, which is always a good sign. So, what's the plan with this one, I hear you ask, and when will you be starting? Well, we're going to be starting this one as soon as we've done the suffer. When the suffer's out of the way, I'm moving on to this one. Now, I do have a sort of plan, I'll call it, for want of a better word. I want to try and get this one done, if I can, for Telford, okay, which is really only going to give me, you know, a few weeks, really, to get this one done, because obviously with other work as well, but it's basically going to give me a month, I reckon, to get this one start to finish. Because I'm enjoying doing the actual suffer quite nicely with all its bits, my plan with this one is gear up. I want it in a flight performance type thing, nicely up on its angle, and then going through a turn on a bank with probably almost upside down, something like that. So I'm planning on doing something with acrylic rods coming out of the engines down to a plinth on a base and do it like that. I said all these things with the suffer, and trust me, off camera we've had a few problems with the suffer build and trying to get it right and to work it out purely because the electrics and trying to work it round. Hence why the first 4 parts of this build really cover just getting it together, because I had to work out where the electrics are all going to go. This one will probably have electrics in it as well. Fingers crossed, I'm all doing very nicely. A lot of you have asked about the electrics. Now, say Marcus Jellyman on the site, he is working on packages that go with it. I know we spoke about it and you've seen the bit on it before. Got the microchip, which are pre-programmed with different, the wires that come off, depending which ones you hook up to, have different rates, so they'll flash at different things. So you've got them, you know, some will do a double flash, and then there's the pause, others will do a slow pulse, others are quick blinking ones, strobe lights, and some are constant, obviously for, you know, nose wheels, things like that, so you can take your pick. So that's about it for this one. That's the plan for the Tomcat. I hope you enjoy this kit, and I'm going to love building this kit. Until next week, everybody. Well, it's not actually going to be next week. You've got 2 weeks without me now. I'm going to go off for some R&R and put my feet up on a beach somewhere. So until 2 weeks' time, everyone take care, and I'll see you soon.